Hello, hello. My name is Kim Addis, and I am the president and founder of Frame of Mind Coaching. And you have just joined the Frame of Mind Coaching podcast, where we invite leaders from all over the world to come onto the podcast and get coached live and in person. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you a guest from far away. His name is Gautham Pasupuleti, and he is the CEO, the chairman, and the managing director of a company called Biodesign Innovation Labs. Gautham, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ken.
So where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Bangalore, based in, it's in Karnataka from India. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're a medical device company. We've been working for the past 3-4 years on this affordable ventilators, which can solve the problem of, very expensive ventilation systems. And so we're working something that can save lives, patients. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's great. And how long have you been working on this for?
I have been working on the medical devices for the past 8 years now.
8
but
years.
On this, yeah, 8 years. But on this particular product, Respirate, and I've been working for the past 3-4 years since the inception of this company, right? Yeah, and then we have from the beginning we have done all the R&D, a lot of the research, primary research, secondary research, visiting hospitals, prototyping, and then developing the product to the stage of it gets to clinical trials, and then applying for FDA approvals, and then
Wow,
doing.
it's a big process.
Yeah, when COVID pandemic started, we started distributing our product across India for saving lives of patients. Yeah.
And how's it going? Has it been successful?
It's been quite hectic. There's a lot of things I've learned, that it is when there is a natural disaster or some kind of a crazy things happen like COVID. I think it's something that we are responding to this COVID in a way that we were trying to mobilize supply chain to meet the demand, and some of the places where we have to go after the funding, go after the supply chain for the regulatory approvals, and so on and so forth. It was quite challenging, but it's also very worth it in terms of the learning. And we also got a lot of support from the government of India, who funded our project for making this portable, affordable ventilators, which is right now saving the lives of patients in the space of emergency care, emergency medicine, trauma, casualty, and post-operative care. And right now we are looking at expanding to US and other countries so we could meet the demand and also save lives. Yeah, it's been quite challenging and quite very exhausting, I would say. But at the same time, I really love the whole experience and trying to do something which matters a lot, especially in the current situation and context. One of the main
Absolutely.
reasons, yeah, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to be in this space of medical devices, because it has an impact that directly contributes to our society, humanity as a whole, which can save lives and also improve the quality of care. And I wanted to do a lot of good work in this space of healthcare technologies and medical device. And that is the reason we started this company, which is essentially saving lives.
So you were in the right place at the right time for sure, and you started way ahead of the curve. What is your background? Is your background in medicine? Is your background in business? Tell us a little bit about how you came to
Yeah.
this.
So yeah, I grew up in Chennai. It is Tamil Nadu in the South India. In India, there's a state called Tamil Nadu, where I grew up in Chennai, which is the capital of Tamil Nadu, where I studied instrumentation control engineering. I come from the background of engineering.
Okay.
One of the streams is also biomedical engineering. And in 2014, I passed out. I graduated from Anna University, and then I went to MIT in Boston, where I had worked with some of the great professors and on many research projects, from artificial intelligence to biomedical engineering and all the medical devices, doing research and development for ophthalmology and other products. And we also got a research grant in India for our portable ventilators from Mass General Hospital, which is part of the CAMTech program, Innovations in Medical. So I came back from Boston to Bangalore to start this company along with my brother, which is essentially developing affordable ventilators, which can save lives in the trauma and emergency space. Yeah.
Okay, great. And are you married, children? What's your kind of personal status?
I'm 27. I'm not married. I'm single, and yeah, not. Yeah,
27,
I have a.
and you've accomplished so much so far. You've been in this business for 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. I just.
Holy
I
smokes.
was. I was doing this. Yeah, yeah. It's. There's still a lot of things to do. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your greatest challenge? What do you want to talk about today?
I mean, for me, productivity, right? So I want to increase the productivity and do a lot of good work in a short time, and at the same time, it has to be like impactful. Like whatever I do, I want to make sure that it impacts like a billion people. For example, making a new technology which can be accessible and affordable to all the people across India and US and Australia and other countries like African countries. So, for example, portable ventilator. So we have like a lot of research that takes place like 3, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years for some of these technologies to actually become commercialization.
Hmm.
So what the challenge is to really reduce the time to do the all R&D. The challenge also comes in financing a lot of these projects because it's early stage, a lot of research and development. So you also apply for the federal funding, and investors don't invest in very early stage, and there's a lot of challenge in getting the funding. So it goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. So your question, how do you choose where to place your focus? Is your question, how do you maximize the day? Is your question, how do I stay awake all those hours to get all that work done? What's your question specifically?
Yeah, my question is, how do I make yeah, first question is like more on the prioritizing aspect, like
Okay.
prioritizing the long term and short term things that I wanted to do and how to accomplish that. And the second aspect of the question is to really look at how to maximize the productivity,
Okay.
to do something really impactful.
So, one of the things that we recommend to entrepreneurs is to really get clear on what the goals are for the year
Mhm.
and have a very specific, defined picture of what the outcome is that you're looking for in this defined period of time. And that means having a meeting with the key stakeholders and putting that in writing for starters. And then what we do is, and you're an engineer, you probably know this better than I do, is we work backwards and say, okay, if this is the goal, what needs to happen in this time frame? Is that even realistic? Can this happen in this time frame? Right? So we're working backwards to create a plan that allows us to look at this year in terms of quarters, then in terms of months, in terms of weeks. So if, for example, your goal is to bring this to market and you know that there are 4 major initiatives that have to happen in order to bring it to market.
It's already in the market in India. It's already in the market.
Okay,
How we
great.
can.
Yes, in India, but let's say in the States, right?
Yeah.
I'm just picking something, right? Then
Yeah.
what you would do is say, hey, okay, so here are the major projects that bring it to market. And one of the things that you need to do is actually, in order to increase your productivity, is eliminate some of the tasks from your plate by testing to see whether or not this meets the criteria. Does this fit in any of these 4 buckets? If it does not fit, then I need to get rid of it. I need to eliminate. Because what I
Mhm.
find a lot of times is we get distracted by things that don't lead us to our goals. And so a lot of time prioritization isn't only about creating a priority and being clear about what that is. It's also about reducing all the things that don't line up with the goals. So if I were to look at all of your activities and contrast them with your actual goals, I'm taking a guess, but I will probably find a series of activities that are not aligned with your goal. Things like conversations, meetings, emails, things that take you away from your primary focus. And so, really, it's a very strange um, process. But in order to increase productivity, you have to reduce activity. Strange, right? It's a little bit backwards, because what we find is that people who aren't productive are doing a lot of things that don't lead to an outcome. And they are so busy doing those things that they've lost sight of the goal. And those things might be, just spending time with the wrong people, or having meetings that are longer than they need to be, or not delegating well, spending time doing things yourself when those things can be done by somebody else. So you have to really also identify what is the best use of your time. I find that really great leaders, especially startup leaders, feel like they have to do everything themselves. And they feel like they do it better, they do it faster, but what happens is the load is too heavy. And so their productivity is actually lower than it could be if they delegated a lot of these activities. Does any of this resonate for you?
Yeah, it definitely resonates. Yeah. I think one of the things is that in a startup, in a in a company which is self-funded, or having little funding from federal funding grants, and not much of an investment, where you don't have continuous revenues, you have like limited resources, you're understaffed, so you do a lot of things by yourselves, and then you end up having like working 12, 14 hours a day, and then burning out the next whole week, and then you have these it is productive, and then I had both experience. Some are like good experience in working really hard and burning my time, and it had had some good impact, like which really helped in getting some of the funding to get, for example, I don't know what in 2018, one of the tragedies was I lost my own brother in an accident, which
Wow.
was in February, and then I had to do all my his job and my job, and both of our things, and it's too much of burden. But I was kept doing that. We had like very little funding to really go ahead and for the runway of the company. But I kept doing what I was doing, and then I was also trying to organize the tasks, and then just focus on one particular thing, which is to get some funding for the research projects that we were doing. And then at the end of the year in 2018, I ended up getting funding, which really helped to release our product right now, right? Right
Yeah.
now, as in this year when the pandemic started. So what you do right now will have an impact, like two,
Yes.
three,
But I
two,
want to
three,
say something to you, because
like
I
an
think
outcome.
this is very important.
Yeah,
What you do right now will have an impact on what happens later, but what you think right now will have a bigger impact on what happens later. So first we think, then we do, right? Our thinking precedes our action. And you said something earlier that I really want to address, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs think the same way, which is I have a limitation of resources. Therefore, I have to work 14, 16 hours a day. I have to do all the work. I have to do all the things. And what I want to say to you is when we think in terms of limited resources, our solutions become limited too. And the truth is, there's an unlimited amount of resources right at our doorstep. We just don't know how to access them because we're not thinking that way. We are thinking in terms of limitation. And right now, that's exactly what you described. Because I have a limited number of resources, I have to do it all myself. And that thinking is causing you to not be able to see and take advantage of, leverage the opportunities and the resources that are right available to you. Those could look in terms of partnerships. Those could look in terms of people who can help you, who can lighten your load, people who have skill sets where perhaps you are not as strong, but you're not looking outside because you're so busy doing, right? So the big shift here is to say, okay, so if I consider for a moment, not sure I believe it, but if I consider for a moment that there are unlimited resources available to me, an unlimited number of uh, individuals who can help me, unlimited talent, unlimited funding, unlimited intelligence, unlimited. It's all unlimited and it's accessible to me. Now you start solving problems differently. Instead of just doing everything yourself, you start asking different questions. Something like, who could help me? Where can I find? Right? And now the problem is very different. What ends up happening is, in the long run, sure, in the short run, you're working 16 hours a day, but that's not sustainable, right? You can't do that for the rest of your career.
Mhm.
And so you need to shift your thinking in order to bring in the right resources in order for you to truly grow. You can't do it all yourself. No great company is built on one man's shoulders alone, right? So you have to think differently in order to access the resources that are available to you. A lot of people believe that resources cost money. That's not necessarily true. Resources can be a win-win situation for people if we find and tap into the right resources. But we have to think about it. We have to know what we're looking for. And if you think it's impossible, you're correct. You won't find what you're looking for. So in your case, right, not only do we need to reduce the activity, we have to increase our belief, our view that there are resources accessible to us and that we can afford those resources. In fact, also go so far to say, if you continue on your path of working that hard, you will not succeed. So you can't afford to not find the resources. So now your task is different. Your job, your focus is different. Instead of focusing on getting all the things done on your list of things to do, your focus is on resource acquisition. And that's what really amazing CEOs do. They bring in the right people, the right talent at the right price. And that's how they grow. What do
Right.
you think of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of things really resonate in terms of how to move ahead with getting the right engineers. We have one of the best engineers, who's working on a project, and a lot of decisions have to be made, and those things, again, decision making, and yeah, I agree with you in terms of getting the right resources. And because some of the things I shouldn't be doing, I'm doing it, like for example having meetings, and going to a lot of these places which I could have a resource to do that. It's also as a CEO of the company, and I would want you to first interact with some of the initial customers to get the first hand experience, you know in order for me to actually get a sense of what we are doing at long term.
Sure, but you don't
Does
have
it
to.
make
So
sense?
you can do that a few times and then you can delegate
Mhm.
that too. So for you, the first task is, what are all the things that someone else can do that I'm doing? And I don't mean someone else that I know, just someone else, right?
Mhm.
So there are some things in my company that only I can do, but most things someone else can do. And so I have to identify the things that someone else can do. And even if I don't know who that other person is, I just need to know that this needs to get off my plate. And when that happens, now I can grow. Now I can reach my goals, right? Because now I'm thinking differently. And really, what's required in order to grow is a massive shift in thinking. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect to get somewhere new. It's not possible. We need to think differently first in order for growth to take place. Good?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Gautham, I want to say thank you for coming onto the podcast. I hope you took something away of value. And for those of you who are listening, I hope that this triggered some thought for you too. Um, if any of you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, willing to share a challenge and be coached, please reach out to me. My email address is kim@frameofmindcoaching.com. And for those of you who have a challenge but aren't so comfortable being on a podcast to share it, please reach out to me anyway. My email address is kim@frameofmindcoaching.com, and we can set up some private time to talk. Gautham, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me, for sharing your challenge. I loved it. I think it's something that a lot of leaders struggled with. So I think it was very universally appropriate. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for the time. Thank you
And
very
I
much.
wish you great luck in your endeavors. I think what you're doing is amazing, and you are going to save many,